Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. I just had a war with my computer here, and thankfully I won. So we'll keep getting back to the JRC here in just a moment. But first, the disclaimers, and as always, the trigger warnings. All right, folks. In regards to this disclaimers, when we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please utilize the headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and watching this, parental supervision is very much advised. Also today, I'm getting attacked on all four cylinders because I live in Missouri and the weather lately is having all the allergies come in. So if you hear me make weird throat noises or I start sounding weird because my nose gets stuffed out of nowhere, I apologize for that in advance, but I will not edit it, not because I don't want to, but because I don't know how. Alright? It's amateur hour over here, folks. It is amateur hour, and this is why we probably aren't very large of a channel. Alright? Okay, so we are going to get back to where we left off. And remember, we were asking the JRC why they never took responsibility for their own failures. Such as, why is it that they view if a person leaves their program and their behaviors come back, why do they blame them leaving the program as opposed to that perhaps the program is what caused said behaviors to become back, get worse, with whole new behaviors that were never previously before they went to the JRC. It's an interesting question that the JRC has never answered, because unlike even within the medical model itself, they have never at any point in time accepted fault. That includes in regards to the 6 students whose deaths they have on their hands. If you don't believe me, Autistic Hoya's massive archive is right there in the description box, folks. You can go over it at any time. Okay? Speaking of, because I didn't go full into the disclaimers, you have Autistic Hoya's massive archive, Neuroclastics article, and Neuroclastics GoFundMe due to the JRC threatening to sue them over said article. If you can help them, I know they appreciate it. If you can't, please share it. Alright? So, back to their psychobabble, and they're ever dodging in accepting in any accountability in regards to behaviors getting worse and new ones appearing by blaming the victim and blaming the system. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Should. It's kind of everybody's go-to these days. Everybody's swimming in pseudoscience. Please send the comment. We've had a good run, humanity, but holy crap, everybody's just getting dumber. Sorry. I have no filter, folks. Call it like I see it. Alright. In one particularly poignant case, a patient who was moved from JRC to an alternative residential program where he did not receive the ESD treatment, and he began attacking staff and harming himself, requiring the reintroduction of physical restraints and psychotropic medication. Once again, the JRC is not going to accept any form of accountability. So what might that actually look like? Why am I saying that they should take accountability for their own failures? Number 1, a device that is designed to hurt people, that's only success is in stopping a behavior for a period of a few short seconds. Number 2, in order for the device to continue working, and to so-called get those behaviors down to what they say is 0. Although, video surveillance footage does beg to differ there. Just saying is all. That means in order to keep those behaviors down, you are going to submit that child willingly to a whole life filled with extreme physical pain during any time they might even have any form of behavior. But now we got to roll that back and also talk about other shockable offenses, with the JRC always leaves conveniently out until challenged on it. What do we mean by that? Well, if we rewind back a little bit, we know if we look at the behavioral contract of Jennifer Masumba, which is conveniently, by the way, linked there in the description box for you to pull up and look at on your own time if you would like to. Other shockable offenses include standing up from your seat for more than 3 seconds without verbal express permission. Getting up to hug someone, whether a teacher or a fellow student. Nagging, such as you ask to go to the bathroom and get ignored, so you keep asking. They call that nagging. You get a shock. Any disruptive sounds. This is particularly a poignant one because if you remember, the first student that died on the JRC's watch had 80,000 Aversives administered to her over a 3-day period. This was before the shock device. So we're talking about her being forced to have fiery hot sauce forced down their throat, the sniffing salts, the noise-canceling helmets, pinching her on pieces of skin such as the soles of her feet until she bled, and we have the documents that note those scabs all over the bottoms of her feet, getting spanked multiple times with a spatula. Would you like me to go on, JRC? 3 days, 80,000 aversives. And when it continued, only then did they figure that maybe this person wasn't having a behavior and should see a doctor. What happened due to that neglect of 3 days and insisting by a very untrained staff that those were behaviors and not someone groaning in pain, person died of untreated ulcer and died in horrible pain. Okay? So please keep that in mind when they do the whole shock because of behaviors. Because by their definition, JRC's handbook no less, if it's not necessarily a behavior itself, but can be construed as something that could possibly turn into a behavior, they consider that a shockable offense. And keeping it that vague, they could literally determine the fact that you got up off your bed in the morning and got to your 2 feet could be a shockable defense if we go by the JRC's handbook here. I meant offense, not defense. Sorry. Right? Yeah. That. So we shock them for behaviors that are not behaviors. We shock them for actual behaviors. The thing is, since you're not dealing with the root of the problem, so the root problem is still there, sitting there, waiting to get triggered to cause the behaviors again, that means you are subjecting a person to a life full of never-ending torture. Because every time the symptom occurs, you're going to have to use it. And keep using it, keep using it, and keep using it. Now, I ask my audience one thing. If you were forced on a device like that, and you were forced to wear it every day, that intense pain that Dr. Israel designed it to cause, with even the hint of a behavior that might take place, would you consider that a happy existence? Would you consider that a part of having real good quality of life? Because I wouldn't. Not at all. And that's the point, JRC. You're not actually causing any real progress. And these students, very obviously, are also not showing real progress. Because you have to continue to use it for the same things. Because you're dealing with the symptoms. You're not dealing with the triggers that are causing them. That's why they keep happening. That is also why, after they leave your hellhole, in particular, if we're dealing with folks who were never properly shown how to navigate the service system, those behaviors inevitably are going to recrop up again. But now we've got several years of fear, PTSD, and all the anger, rage, and resentment that comes from being treated that way to add on top of the pile. So, for example, say they had all these behavioral issues, but they never attacked the staff before. And then they move. And there it is. Say they never had hygiene issues. At the very least, they had that covered. They leave the JRC, and all of a sudden, must be magic, right? Must be because you moved them off the device. That's why they stopped taking care of themselves. Instead of the rational person who would see the similarities between those types of behaviors from that of an abused child who's gotten removed out of a very violent home situation that exhibits the exact same types of behaviors and now also has new ones, including angry outbursts at those folks who are folks of some form of authority over them. It's the same thing. Or, how did that meme go? It's the same picture? Because it is. The failure was not the kid leaving your school, JRC. The failure is the kid entering your school in the first damn place. Instead of following protocol, like all the rest of us do, with that full functional behavioral assessment being done first, so all pertinent information you can have right on hand, right there in front of you, so you have it there while you're comparing different types of programs to find the one best suited to the consumer themselves, and also those ones that, if necessary, will have the trauma-informed, even mental health help there as well to help you do exactly that. Get to the root. You don't get to the root, the problems are going to come back. The problems come back, if you're at the JRC, You're going to be forced on that device for the rest of their lives. And if anybody thinks that's any kind of life worth having, I don't know, more power to you, but I sure as hell wouldn't pick it, and I'm going to guarantee, in spite of what they make them do on testimonials, in a safe space, they would probably all tell you the same. But let's continue, shall we? We'll get in a little bit more into this here. Okay, so remember, and he began attacking staff, harming self, requiring reintroduction of physical restraints and psychotropic medication. These are also the same types of behaviors that crop up from those who have survived abusive homes, such as getting directly confrontational with any form of authority figure, going out doing dangerous things such as driving too fast, drinking heavily, drugs, doing absolutely reckless shit like most of my generation did, jumping off rooftops. For God, I still don't understand that one. Both my stepbrother and my brother Mike did it. They survived. Not even a scrape. Lucky bastards. But still. Yeah. Doing more reckless crap. Because that's normal. When you're dealing with someone that has an immense amount of trauma that they're trying to process as a survivor of horrific abuse. Gen X, we were just crazy. And we were our own supervision. Okay? But here, my point remains. Kids who come out of abusive households are more likely to go into dangerous behaviors and getting addicted to substances. We all know this because the media has been blasting it for over the last 20 to 30 years. Not to mention the DARE programs that have seemed to gone the way of the dodo. Okay? Yeah. Alright? This is what happens when you're a survivor of abuse. Sometimes those of us who go through it, while processing the trauma and dealing with all the emotions that have been suppressed, sometimes for multiple years, like myself, and the psychological fallout of all of that. It does cause acting out. It does cause confrontation with authority figures. It does cause us to do reckless, possibly lethal things to ourselves while we're trying to process all the insanity. It's happened to me. It's happened to many other survivors. That's why I can look at this and see their description here and see it for what it is. JRC, the reason why he got worse and began to attacking staff is because at the JRC, you attacked him. Your direct care staff, your authority figures, attack those kids 24/7. And don't tell me they don't. And it's a part of the program. Because it is absolute horseshit. I have never had a program where I was grabbed by an authority figure by my shirt collar and walked back into the wall and being threatened. Like you've done with knives to some of those kids in the halls that you've admitted to by calling them behavioral rehearsal lessons. We've read your handbook, right? I've never had that happen at any point in time within my treatment program. Ever. Ever. If you took a neurotypical kid who survived abuse, having those very similar behaviors, what do you think would happen to you if you pulled the same thing on them that you pull on us? How do you think that would go, JRC? Because I'm pretty sure the full weight of the government, even this asinine, batshit insane one we have right now, would come after you guns blazing. Okay? Accept responsibility for your own failures. The behaviors you describe here are very familiar to me because I lived through them as a teenager, coming out of an extreme abusive situation because of stepbrother. Okay? Burnout. Increasing hostility towards authority figures. More and more reckless behaviors when out with supposed friends. Multiple times I could have ended up getting myself killed. Okay? Which is why some of my triggers are very much lodged within my PTSD, and it becomes a circle of suck if a flashback kicks on. At least for a day or two. Thank God it doesn't happen as often as it used to. It's not the other school that failed him, JRC, it's you. You failed him. The system failed him by not providing a way to have a full functional behavioral assessment done before placement was even discussed. The other school was left blind. They had no full functional behavioral assessment information to be able to gauge what was going on with that particular student. They were flying blind. All they got was a list of symptoms. I call it symptoms, it's a list of behaviors. Okay? That's all you gave them. There was no ideas in regards to what was triggering the behavior. There were no suggestions about the other part of this so-called treatment program that you would suggest for the other place to continue and how to perform them. You literally handed him over with nothing and said, here you go. And what? Then you claim credit when he gets worse, saying, well, obviously we were better, when you're the one, you set him up for the failure. You set him up for that failure. And when that happened, you blamed the people trying to save him from your abuse and insanity that resulted to things getting worse in the first place. Accepting no accountability at all. That it was your own actions, your abuse, you starving him, you getting him up in the middle of the night just to shock him. Your bizarre behavioral rehearsal lessons. The very same ones that in any survivor would automatically kick in fight or flight skills. And then you say it's because he's not on the torture device anymore. When your torture device is what's contributed into what that became in the other facility. Very easy to see. Okay? We're going to read a little bit more here. He also stopped eating, stopped speaking to his family, and slowly became essentially catatonic, and he did not respond to the attempted behavioral interventions. We're going to rewind back to 2002, JRC. Back in 2002, one of your students refused to remove his coat. He did not threaten anyone with violence. He was not threatening in any way, shape, or form towards staff, students, or himself. When he refused, you shocked him for it. The pain was so intense that he dropped to his knees and rolled underneath his table to get away from you, where you continued to shock him. You had multiple staff drag him into the room with a 4-point board, where you placed him face down and strapped him there and put a noise-canceling helmet over his head. And within a 7-hour period, you shocked him over 31 times. Within that time period, overheard in the video surveillance footage of the incident, people laughing while they were doing that to him. That particular incident ended you in a whole heap of trouble, including video surveillance actually finally coming out of that event in 2012 and having gone viral. And we're talking 2012. Going viral back then was a task. Alright? After that incident, Cheryl McCollins' mother forcibly removed him out of the school and took him to an ER, where he sat there for 2 months, catatonic. And on his body were 2nd and 3rd degree burns. When he came out of that catatonic state, anybody who tried to help him, and he would start getting out of control, trying to move, run, and get away. Want to know why I just re-described that situation, although those of us on this channel is very familiar with it? Let's read that sentence again. He also stopped eating, stopped speaking to his family, slowly became essentially catatonic, and he did not respond to attempted behavioral interventions. What I'm seeing here is another student that you put through the exact same thing you did to Andre McCollins. And then you are shocked when he had a reaction extremely similar to the one had by Andre McCollins. And yet somehow this is the fault of removing him off of the device. But they start talking, the family, and we're going to have some real talk, JRC. Real talk, real world. People are not perfect. There's a lot of us people all over the world who at random times will stop talking to our family members. Whether it is a smart idea, an idea that has some reasoning behind it or not, it happens. I've gone a period of 2 years not speaking to my mom before. And a previous one, 7 years. That one in particular was directly a result of what I've told you all in regards to my own childhood and a misplacement by myself of blame that I've had to work through. Thankfully, we've got through it as a family. Mommy's my bestie. Alright. And my stepdad is my spirit animal. Alright. People stop talking to family for a myriad of reasons, saying that is due to him being taken off the torture device, and you're not sitting there thinking that maybe the reason he stopped talking to them was because they were the ones that signed the consent decree that put him on your torture device? And you're acting like this is strange? And a reason to take him and put him back on the device? Please sincerely stop smoking crack. Okay? Given his tragic decline, the patient's guardians fought for years to return him to JRC and reinstitute the ESD treatment. We're going to put him back on the device that is causing these behaviors to get worse. Because we can't sit here and think that maybe trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result is somehow not the definition of insanity. Especially considering what we just read there is nearly identical with the same reactions Andre McCollum's had after the 2002 incident. But we're just going to say, obviously, it was because he was taken off the device. I also noticed you said guardians. Where was this person's parents? Or is this an instance where the family said no and you bullied them and got your lawyers to get your very, very corrupt court system out in the Canton area to try and get them put back on there? And of course, I'm not even going to read back what they're saying here, but we got him back and back on there, and he's smiling again and making eye contact because we don't know the difference between a mask and real, genuine feeling. That's what it is at the end of the day, JRC. You actually believe it either because you're seeing what you want to see, and you can't wrap your brain around the fact that it could be a mask because they're trying to protect themselves from you. Or you already know it's a mask. But you don't care because you got him back now, making $250,000 a year off of his pain with no end in sight. Now, on that very dark thought, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to utilize the comments. I appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye, everyone.